You're listening to Top Lyne Winnipeg with Nik Lyne and Brady Ricketts.
Welcome back to Top Lyne Winnipeg. And times are pretty good for the Winnipeg Jets to start the year, aren't they? I mean, first time the franchise has started 2-0 or 3-0-0 in 2.0. I believe if I read Joe Pescucci earlier correctly, first time since the late 80s, 88, 87, 88, I think it was. It's a damn good start for those Jets. And let's get into it. Brady Ricketts here with me. Got to take in the game with him today. How you doing, Brady?
Not bad. No, you're right. A little 3-0 start. I'm excited to kind of talk about what we've seen so far in the first 3 games of the season. Some early, maybe hot takes, some things that we saw tonight in the arena. I think some themes to look forward to for the rest of the year on both with a good note and some things to maybe cause for concern. But I think right now, take it while you run. I think the Jets very much so. Even I think last year, bank those early points while you can, 100%.
Oh, that's why that North America or U.S. Thanksgiving such a big number, right? Like as much as you can't eliminate yourself in game one, you sure can make the climb pretty damn impossible in this 3-point league. And even we're going to be talking about a lot of good things, some tough things we're also seeing. You take 6 out of 6 points early, you take them and run. There's going to be some down troughs as this year goes on, but early on you just want to bank these points. We've seen how important it has been for this Jets franchise, who 2 years ago were 1 game away from having the NHL's biggest collapse, right? So bank these points. Good start, 3-0-0, and it's been a good start for the organization top down. It's been pretty cool to see the Jets obviously 3-0-0, the Moose now 2-0, and their prospects, like the top prospects. You see guys get sent down. How are they going to respond? How are they going to handle that? We're seeing some good stuff with the Moose in their first 2 games. Nikita Chibrikov, 2 games played, a goal, 3 assists, 4 points. Like to see that for a guy that was on the fringe of that roster.
100%. Stay hungry. Stay hungry.
Elias Salmonson, 2 games played, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points for the big right-handed defenseman. Exactly what you want to see once they go down to the Moose. Brad Lambert, 2 games played, 0 goals, but 3 assists. Again, you want those kids pacing those type of point totals with the Moose coming off of obviously a big disappointment in their career, to be quite frank, to be going down.
To get cut, 100%.
And you see that today. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not going to try. Big Dom D made his pro debut. 37 out of 39 saves with the Moose. Again,
also a busy evening.
That is a pretty busy evening for old Dom D. And then a couple of guys in junior. Obviously, Braden Yeager is a guy we're going to be paying a lot more attention to now that he's in the Winnipeg system, picking up where he left off last year. 4 games played, 4 goals, 3 assists, nearly 2 points a game at 7 points there. Love to see it. But the one that's got everyone's attention right now, and we were talking about him last show. We were talking about him profiling as a bottom 6 guy.
We were talking about him in the arena tonight, not even here.
Yeah. Kevin Heehan, the offensive explosion to start his OHL season. 6 games played, 7 goals, 8 assists, 15 points. He's in the top 5 in the O, and you're looking at some of these replays and clips and what you're able to access from junior hockey, and like he's putting on a real show down there. Exciting stuff. We're going to be talking a lot and focusing a lot about the NHL team. This is what you want to be seeing from the guys you're expected to come up and help this team eventually.
Exactly what you want to see from a guy like Kevin He. Like, we'll see how the pacing continues on, because there are some guys like the Eastern Council League, those guys that OHL, CHL guys that were kind of on the cusp of making teams that went back a little bit later. They're all starting to kind of produce points now. I think Braden Yeager's kind of along that line as well. Hopefully he's able to keep that pace, because like if you could have like a season where he like doubles his point total, like come on, you're looking at him to slot in, like get that pro career going soon enough. Keep building.
You're looking at a real home run swing of a pick later in the draft there. So
which basically everything after the second round is a straight up gamble essentially. That's the first round really.
100, and to see this kind of jump, that's exactly what you. Every year past the draft, you want to see strides forward, right? And early on in this season, you're seeing big, exciting strides from Kevin.
Because this will be his D+1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to see out of a D+1 right now. So that's great. So yeah, that's exactly what we want to see top down. Moose getting out of the early start, Jets getting off to an early start too, banking points. Guys that you need to do well, doing well. So I guess if you want to, we can start getting into the week that was with the Winnipeg Jets, starting off the season with a 6-0 domination. Well, the shooting percentage was crazy against the Edmonton Oilers. Potentially a little cup final slump going on because they found themselves 0-3, but we're not going to talk about them. But some of the early takeaways that you saw from the first game with the Winnipeg Jets there.
Yeah, they look good. Specialty teams contributed. Obviously, shut down Connor McDavid, which there's the big thing. Anytime you get through Edmonton, shutting down McDavid's huge.
Yeah.
I thought it was a statement game from the Adam Lowry line to start the year, who picked up where they left off from last year, really leading that team forward. Yeah, great tonight. But if I'm not mistaken, they contributed to 3 points in that Edmonton game. Power play started off with a hot start, and Connor Hellebuck getting a shutout to start the year. Hard to dislike a lot, but you do mention they did not generate as much offensive opportunities as you would think for a 6-0 score. Which
it's only 20 shots against, and that includes shots to go into the net too. So,
and hey, always fun to chase the opposing goalie in the first game of the year,
especially if it's an Oilers goalie. It's my favorite part of the year.
It was one of those statement games for me too, because obviously it's the first game of the season, and you're seeing all like the national broadcast talking about the Oilers are the favorite in the West. They're going to get back there.
Yeah, they're too good to not.
Yeah, and what I found that interesting is on that night in the broadcast, they were considering Edmonton, Vancouver, and Toronto as the playoff locks, and they were wondering which Canadian team outside of them would get in and who wouldn't. And it was a very popular pick to have the Jets outside the playoffs, which we've talked about this. I think they're firmly going to be a playoff team. Now, what levels can they get to once they get there is kind of where my conversation starts.
Yeah.
But I was shocked to see that. So then to put up a 6-0 spot on Edmonton on a night like that, when all eyes are on you as the season gets underway, that had to feel good, man. That was a great start for the Jets.
Yep, 100%. And so then after that one, we go to Chicago, which kind of like flipped the script on what we saw. Kind of all the offense dried up there because we have a 2-1 game with an OT winner from, I believe it was Mark Scheifele.
Yep.
But that for the longest time, I mean, that was a 1-0 lead for the Blackhawks going up until maybe the last 3-4 minutes of the third period before they tied it.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. It had the feel, we talked about this on the post-game show, had the feel of, there was a similar Blackhawks game last year.
Yeah.
Where it didn't feel like a lot was going on. Blackhawks were up 1, and then the Jets scored 2 in the last minute and a half and won the game. It had a similar feel where I didn't think the Blackhawks were overly dangerous, though they were kind of like pesky. Like they would just get in the way of stuff. They would have some possession time, but it's not like they were really creating a whole lot of quality.
Yeah, like the offense, like the quality offensive plays come from broken plays rather than pressure, more or less.
100%. But also the Jets on the other side of it weren't generating much on their end either. It was a lot of perimeter stuff. Soderblom really saw the puck that night a lot. Yeah. So it was a frustrating night in that regard. It was another strong night, I thought, for the Rasmus Kupari line. Morgan Barron, Alex Alifalo, Rasmus Kupari have really come together to form what you want to see out of a fourth line. They're being trusted in all sorts of situations. That's one thing we've seen from Scar Neal early is the amount of shifts he's given out to guys until the third period seems to be pretty even across the board. And this fourth line's giving you minutes. A guy like Morgan Barron, not the sexiest hockey player, so to speak, but a guy you can trust to just go do his job, get the puck in deep, drive the net, try and get things going. chip it in deep, get on the puck. A guy like Rasmus Kupari's added that speed element to that line. It's really helped them stretch things out a little bit. And he seems to have some pretty big confidence coming into this year compared to what we saw from him last year. And then Alex Iafallo, just a good, solid, trusted defensive vet. Makes the stops, helps them go the other way. Not a line I'm expecting to see many goals from. I mean, we saw Rasmus Kupari night one get his first goal in 70 games. But a line that's really... Yeah, it was. It's a line we're really seeing go out there and do a job. Yeah. And when I say job, it's not even just that they're killing minutes.
They just have an identity.
They have an identity to them, and they're creating zone time for the shift after them. Like, how many times tonight, even, we'll get to tonight's game next, I guess, but how many times were we talking about how the game almost seemed like two different games, depending on which lines were out there? Like, Larry's line would come in and have like a completely offensive zone dominant shift. They'd get to the net, there'd be goal mouth scrambles, they wouldn't bury, but they were at least spending the bulk of the shifts in the O-zone. And we saw the same thing from the Kupari, Iafallo, Barron group tonight. They've really paved out a nice group for the Jets in a fourth line. And fourth line minutes may not be the most important, but when you have an identity to them and you could trust them and they're going to actually help move the line along positively, that's exactly what you want to see from those limited minutes.
And those minutes can be effective too and important, because like what we saw them doing tonight, and we'll get to it. Well, I guess we can just jump right into it, I suppose, because we're basically there. Like they really dominated in the offensive zone, like behind the net, in the boards and below the net. Like I remember one thing I was talking about, like now this is a great time to try and like rotate in a change while you have that position, that pressure, and to get some of those guys on. And then instead of, like, I thought what Arniel should have been doing was throwing the Lowry line out on top of that. But we'd see that either the first line come out or the Perfetti and Ehlers line. And then I don't know what's going on with that. I know you want to get into it a bit more, both those lines. But it was almost then like it would be going back the other way, unfortunately.
So it's interesting you picked up on that, and you would have liked to see them stack those two groups. Because the one thing when the Jets really got cooking last year, it was off of the backs of stacking shift over shift over shift. Yeah. And I think what you're seeing right now is because both those offensive units are having such trouble generating for themselves, you almost have to put them on the back of one of those two lines to get them to start the play in the O-zone.
Yeah, and we'll preface this by saying, like, as much as Mark Scheifele is on a bit of a heater right now, 4 goals in 3 games, none of which have come 5-on-5. I don't think that line has scored yet on 5-on-5, correct?
Not yet. No,
and they has the Ehlers line even scored 5-on-5 yet? I don't know.
I believe they had one in that Edmonton game, but I'd have to double check on that. But it would have been when the game was out of reach, right? Like,
but it goes to speak about how well the specialty teams units have been doing so far then for the Jets season as well early on.
100%. Touching on Mark Scheifele there quick though. Obviously a pretty big week for Mark Scheifele and his career with the Jets. 800 games played today. That late goal to tie it, and the winner created his 300th goal in the NHL. And the one thing we'll be talking a lot about the skill group and what's going on there later in the show. The one thing is those skill guys are coming up big in man advantage situations.
Big time.
They now have 2 goals at 6-on-5. The tying goal in Chicago and the tying goal today in the first period.
3 seconds left.
Love the move from Scott Arniel. I loved taking that risk to create offense. And
I think Hellebuck kind of called it, because even before the player hopped the boards, Hellebuck was basically at the hash marks being like, am I coming?
Yeah, we were talking about that. I'm like, okay, do it. 2.9, it would take like an almost perfect play for them to score on it. Take the shot. Love having Lowry take the draw there. Love setting it up where Morrissey's as the right-handed D, so his stick's on the inside, and Scheifele's as the left-handed D, so his right-handed stick's on the inside. So wherever Lowry wins that draw, you're going to have a quick shot.
Yeah, it was being funneled there.
Yeah, it was being funneled there, and I love... We talk about it a lot. I wish Mark Scheifele would shoot more, and you're seeing it. Like, he can score goals in this league at quite the rate. So the skill group has been coming up big in man advantage situations. Power plays tops in the league. In overtime, 2 overtime goals, obviously.
Yeah, running at 42.9% right now. The power play is
Yeah,
first in the NHL.
crazy. So they're still impacting the game positively in ways that are creating wins. We'll get into the 5-on-5 stuff in a bit, but it has been pretty fascinating to watch.
And you know what? Something I think that we didn't talk about because it's now the way it's been working is I think the entries on that power play have been so much better this year, because I think that was a big problem the last couple of years for that power play. I don't think we had one discussion about it because it was just going seamlessly, or they just keep possession off of a face off for it. But good to see.
What's interesting about that is, so let's get into some of the specialty teams, because obviously last year we're almost seeing an inverse in some ways of last year right now, where the Jets 5-on-5 game was so strong for most of that year, and their specialty teams really was hanging them out to dry. You're almost seeing a little bit of an inverse of that right now. And what's fascinating is obviously this power play is what everyone's been excited about. We've been itching for movement and puck possession, and we were talking the one power play down at our end tonight. Like Nick Ehlers was in like 5 different spots before going into that pop position, and how they have
changes dynamics, everything changes looks, forces movement from the defenders. It's awesome.
And how they have Velarde and Ehlers working off each other for that pop. Love it. It's going to create so much trouble for those defenders to figure out, okay, who do I have to get here? So the end zone stuff with the power play obviously is exciting. What's interesting is they've still had a bit of struggles with the zone entries, and I think that's exciting. Obviously, they're converting at such a rate, and they still aren't seamlessly. It doesn't seem like they're operating at 100% efficiency, and they're still producing like this. It is a power play that I think just watching it early goes from a power play we watched be a bottom quarter power play last year. I think it was in the bottom 8. To a group that you could reasonably, at minimum, say is going to be a top half of the league, if not top 10 type of potential with just what we're seeing earlier. Obviously, 3 games in, there's going to be adjustments. But the power play is giving you a lot to be excited about. And then the penalty kill is something that we haven't seen a whole lot of, which I think comes in as a positive for the Jets as far as discipline goes. Obviously, you'd rather not be killing penalties. But 100% through 3 games. Today we saw a few of them.
Something that we thought might not be the case in some of our preseason analysis.
Yeah, the penalty kill and the aggression is looking good. Love the look of the power kill. How many times did there was that one where Connor was close to getting a breakaway on the penalty kill.
Zuccarello had to make a good play.
And then we saw that followed up with Scheifele and Nemestikov creating more havoc where they didn't necessarily have to play as much in the D zone.
Yep.
It's fascinating. If they could keep both those units even in the top half of the league, that makes such a big leap from last year.
I've noticed that we were even a bit wrong with how they were going to get utilized too, because we thought that might be like in the back half, like 30, 45 seconds left in the PK, they would go on. But we saw Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele getting on with like a minute 45 on the PK still.
Yeah, so we're seeing them still get sent out after, because they start with the Lowry group. Most
for the face off.
But we're seeing them, instead of them playing together on the PK, we're seeing them each with a different guy. I guess a more defensively responsible player. And so we're seeing them jump out in the middle of a change where they can still. That's what happened with that Kyle Connor one, right? He jumps out there. Yep. There's a bobble of the puck, and he's looking to go. It's really interesting. It's something that excites me. I prefer an aggressive penalty kill. I don't like sitting back against the very best players in this league and having them kind of pick their spots. I love when you're able to force them to make quicker decisions, force them to beat you. And I think that it's going to benefit the Jets offensively too, because they will break away and score on some of these power kill situations.
And they completely neutralized that Minnesota power play today. And that is a power play that we are pretty high on. I think it's pretty dynamic.
Yeah, Faber was watching Faber in person today, and him hitting those empty seams. Like, they got a lot of talent to work with. And the one thing I was talking to you about when they got their first power play, I'm like, oh, here comes the Zuccarello to Kaprizov seam pass. They find that every year to such efficiency. And guess what? I don't think they got that play at all tonight, which you shut down, your PK shut down their most dangerous threat, and it is running from Zuccarello to Kaprizov. Huge ups to the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, and Kaprizov was still making some great plays. The patience that he showed on the ice tonight, it's absurd. He's a pleasure to watch. But even,
The
yeah, there
confidence,
was
man. The confidence he
so
has.
good. But yeah, there was, you couldn't really, that whole power play was pretty stagnant for them. So moving on to, so another little high spot already for the NHL or for the Jets is Connor Hellebuyck. I know you have a little maybe insider baseball potential plus 1,500 bet for a little.
Yeah, I did see that CJ Tudero or from New Jersey Twitter was tweeting out, the analytics guy over there, that he made a Hellbuck heart wager today as he was like plus 15. Was it 15,000 or 1,500?
It might have been, I think it was 15,000 actually.
Yeah, to win the heart,
That's
and
the same odds, by the way, as Matt Rempe.
which nuts. And he's off to such a good start, coming off the Vezina win.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the numbers through 3 games, almost 5 goals saved above expected already. He's got the 3 wins. He's got a
Played 3
shutout.
fucking games. How does he have almost 5 gold saves above expected? That's
976. It's again, we talked about the inverse of last year. Connor Hellebuyck had a real slow start to the year last year. He's coming out of the gates, and we're seeing his best. What's so fascinating about it? He's allowed 2 goals in the 3 games,
yeah.
and I thought both were soft goals for Connor Hellebuyck to be letting in, and both of them have a very similar look to it.
Yeah.
It's out wide on his glove side,
Blocker.
shooting towards the blocker.
Yes. Sorry.
And then we started like watching it, and it seemed like there was the one play we were both like, wait, that was kind of interesting, where I forget who it was on the wall, cut to the middle of the ice, and Hellebuyck was still on his blocker side, so you'd think you try to beat him glove, and he still tried to come cross body to go blocker. And then there was the one at our end there where it was a pretty soft shot from out wide with guys coming in but no real traffic yet, and he had kind of got handcuffed by it and created a bit of a goal mouth situation. I'm kind of wondering if there's something going on. Like, you talk about inside baseball and like pitchers tipping their pitch kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if teams are seeing that Hellebuyck's like hanging his blocker in a certain way right now, and that he's susceptible for something, because it did feel that there's
a lot of
couple times,
chances and a lot of shots are being focused to his blocker side.
right? Something I'm curious about watching moving forward here. But other than that, the fact we're even nitpicking 2 goals and that's all it's been.
Yeah.
Unreal. He's making the big stops. He's been everything as advertised.
We're just saying that just might be something to look ahead. Like, if you're watching the game, see if that becomes a theme throughout, from team to team. See if that may be a scouting report going around.
I am interested.
I mean, we heard about one from. It just kind of reminds me of even the Detroit coach. What's his name again?
Yes. Lalonde. Derek Lalonde. Talking about Vazzy.
Talking about Vazzy being one of the worst goalies in the league when it comes to tracking pucks from the point with traffic in front. So maybe it's just something like that where it's a little insider baseball amongst teams, but hey, we're maybe seeing something on the Hellebuyck's blocker. So for fans watching or listening, maybe take a peek at that over the next course of games, see how that goes. So I think moving on, I think we've kind of touched on some of the negatives. I think we can keep kind of going. So as we said earlier, the skill lines for the Winnipeg Jets right now of Scheifele, Velarde, Kyle Connor, and Nemesnikov, Ehlers, and Perfetti, no 5-on-5 goals yet, and not generating a ton of opportunity, especially from what we saw tonight.
Yeah. Which one do you want to talk about first here?
You know what? I think we've kind of talked about. We've kind of, honestly, feel be kind of beating a dead horse on the top line right now. I think what is a bit more fascinating is the 27-91 at the moment. Has not looked great.
It really has not. It looks clunky and dysfunctional.
We were talking a little about Perfetti amongst ourselves too. Once again, like you're saying, a bit of a slow start. He honestly, even his body language tonight, he didn't even look completely involved.
And you could see the frustration with him in 27, the last couple of shifts in the third period. Yeah. There was that one. It was hard to see from our spot, but someone stepped offside when Ehlers sent that pass to Nemesnikov, and both guys looked like really frustrated. I just don't see it fitting. Stylistically, it. So the interesting thing is, last year they performed at a fine rate for their minutes. They outscored the opposition. They were hovering at 51% of the underlying metrics. So it was a line that was, especially in a third line role, which is really what they are, was fine. But when you dig deeper into it, despite having pretty strong metrics, the Winnipeg Jets as a 5-on-5 team were so good last year. And if you started to dive into it, like Ehlers, and if you start looking at some of the wowies with and without G's, Nick Ehlers and Cole Perfetti as a duo, both of their numbers are just so much better away from each other than together. So I was just curious on it. I've been watching it. And one thing I think is, like, when you're talking about these guys and how they produce offense, I think they stylistically just aren't a great fit for what
they come on two different
does.
ends of the spectrum for sure.
Yeah, like Nick Ehlers, the combo is always about his goal total. And obviously he's done 25 goals. He's a guy that you think could score 30, 35. But this is a guy that was tied for the lead last year with Niels Hoglander as the guy with the most goals in the NHL without a power play goal. So clearly he can score, but I think he's miscast as like a sniper. The way when I watch Nick Ehlers play hockey, I think he profiles much more as a offensive
shot assist guy, to be honest.
Shot assist playmaker, exactly, where he's looking to carry the puck into the zone, create those zone entries, which it's his best trait. He's one of the top 3 to 5 guys in the NHL when it comes to that skill. And he likes to use the entire offensive zone, right up to the blue line, to behind the net. He likes to try and wheel. If he has a guy beat, he knows that there's going to be a support guy, and he looks to try and get the puck to the slot. Sometimes that's frustrating because some of those passes to the slot end up going the other way. But more often than not, Nick Ehlers is creating a quality chance through that style of game. It's not as structured as, say, like working off the cycle or working off the boards, right? Whereas when I look at Cole Perfetti's game, I think he's more of a patient player when it comes to having the puck on his stick. He's at his best when his brain's working for him.
Yeah.
And there's like a breakdown in possession in the O-zone, and he's able to figure out and pick up who's the open guy, who's able to pop, who's found that quiet ice. And when you hear that, you're thinking a natural sniper, a guy that's who can mesh with that. And so it's always been Kyle Connor. Like when you think of Kyle Connor, as much as we get frustrated with certain parts of his game, he is so good at just quietly disappearing in the O-zone and finding where he can get lost for a pass to be made to him. And that fits beside what a Cole Perfetti is looking to do offensively, whereas a Nick Ehlers is looking to really get geared up, create odd man situations through forcing defenders to react to him, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then another thing I really noticed today too is even on their transition, it just seems very broken up. How many times did we see either Perfetti up by himself and just going for a dump and chase?
Yeah, he wasn't even looking to make a play at times.
And I'm wondering about the dump and chase stuff too, because that felt like how they entered the zone a lot of the night in Minnesota today. And me and you really fixated on the Perfetti side of it because it felt like every time he had the puck on that side of the red line, instead of trying to take it in, where I'd want him to be comfortable stepping into the zone and creating.
The only time that we saw him even make the only time we saw him, I think not dump and chase it, was when he was kind of going towards the wing or the wall, and he threw a pass to Hayden Fleury, kind of bust up the middle, and it was basically in his feet.
So and I'm wondering if that's like a team structure thing, because it did seem like there was a ton of dump and chase today. It also, the guys you would expect to excel in dump and chase are like the Lowry line and Kupari lines continue to be very strong, but I just don't see the stylistic fit for Ehlers and Perfetti to make this work. I also do think like Vlad was a big part of this Jets team last year. And I don't think the issue's running through him, but I also do think he is a better player on the wing than center. So with everything else being a mess around him, I don't think he's positively impacting this line right now either.
It's the line that I struggle to think of an identity for them, because we kind of know what the Lowry line is going to be. We know what that fourth line is going to be. We have a pretty good idea what that top line is going to be like. that line of Ehlers, Perfetti, and Nemeskov, I have no idea what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a bit of a problem.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And then the other thing we were really seeing, and it kind of it goes into what you're talking about, wanting to see lines roll over on each other one after the other. The other thing that I thought was very evident tonight when it comes to the top line and why they struggle to consistently is how many times did we see them gain the zone, make a little play, and then the puck was going out the other way 7 seconds into that offensive zone.
They make
possession.
it too easy to make an exit on them.
Every time it's like if they're not scoring off the rush, which all three of them are capable of creating off the rush and making some real highlight reel situations, but as soon as there's a broken possession in the offensive zone, Shifes looked late on a lot of the stuff today. Kyle Connor's not ever going to win a board battle in that area of the ice, and Gabe Vilardi isn't the fleetest of foot. They're so easy to break out against, and then they struggle to get the puck out of their zone. So then you're spending a bulk of your shifts in the D zone. And then one thing I noticed, and it got brought up in our call-in show, and I had a couple DMs about it as well, is one thing I really noticed today too was because of how that works, right? Mark Scheifele is still an offensive first player, and he's thinking offense. So after spending so much time defensively, which should be probably a time to change, he wants to go create offensively, and then you're getting the lengthening of the shifts, which isn't going to help either. So those are the two problems I'm seeing on the two skill groups. I mean, we talk about it often. The easy switch is going to what has worked, and that's Perfetti and Connor, and that is Ehlers with Vilardi and Scheifele. I don't expect them to do it while they're 3-0-0, but that is where it's such a big combo because everything else around them is going so well that you make this switch, look out, like you feel really good about the Jets. There was also some interesting ideas thrown up in a couple of our last shows, comment sections, and on the postgame show today. One suggestion was seeing 91 with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, which I'm actually intrigued by the idea. I've wanted to see 91 beside 55 dating back to last year. I think he could fit beside both of those guys, and you get Ehlers and Vilardi back together who have shown that they can really work. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an Ehlers and Connor thing, though I think that's the maximum spot to do it. But if you're given, I talked about this too, if Arneal has a bit of a higher risk tolerance for an offensive group, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Nick Ehlers has been a really strong group when paired together. Coaches just seem to lose trust in them very, very quickly. But then that gives Perfetti a look with Gabe Vilardi, which is another thing I wouldn't mind seeing if that could kind of work, given how they play the game. I did like. I
think you're on the right track with that, because from what we're seeing right now, like the combination of that power play, we're rocking almost 50%, and what we're seeing from that the bottom six. Well, it's hard to call Lowry part of that bottom six, but you know what I mean. Like they're kind of they're kind of like they're outscoring some of the issues I think that we're seeing right now. And if you can make a little swap or tweak that just makes that first line and that Perfetti and Ehlers, whatever, those two players unlocks a different mode of them at the moment on 5-on-5, I think you're only making your team better.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, like, I love the idea, and we've talked about this before. I love the idea of Kyle Connor with Adam Lowry, but right now at this point in the season, with what you have from the Adam Lowry line and the Kupari line, I think you got to keep them intact.
You don't fix what's not broken.
Especially if they're driving this bus right now. I think you look to make the one tweak, whether it's Ehlers for Scheifele, which is the one we'll call for, but if it's Ehlers for Vilardi or Perfetti for Vilardi, I think those are things that I'm interested in seeing and see if it at least takes a step forward while you have everything else going. I don't think you need to blow up the forward lines as a whole just to get this to work. I think the answers are within those two groups. And even if you take a slight step forward with two groups making that tweak right now, it's going to allow the rest of this thing to roll just with how good everything else has been. It's just one of those things. 3 games in, it's early on one hand, but no goals from your 5 biggest skilled players. at 5-on-5 is something to be concerned about if it keeps dragging into games 5 to games 10, where, yeah, I believe they're going to score, and maybe it's not as big of a concern as they're not going to go all year without scoring, but it's the fact that they're not generating much equality to really fall back on the idea that, oh, they're just unfortunate right now, because I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. No, I don't know if we got too much else to talk about the week going forward. I think we hit most of the points that we were looking for to get to today. So yeah, the week ahead. What do we got going on? You got a bit of a bye week almost.
Yeah, 4 days off in between. They got who they got Friday?
I
should have pulled it up. That's my bad.
I think I got it right here. Whoop. They got the Sharks.
So I like a 4-0 start for the Winnipeg Jets as of Friday. That one in Winnipeg on a Friday night. No celebrating too. I was a little disappointed about that.
No,
as a fan, no, he's hurt week to week. So the return of Tyler Toffoli to Winnipeg after his not so memorable quarter season stint. That should be a game where the Jets win that pretty handily.
This team's going 5-0 because then they got Pittsburgh, and that team is without any identity right now. Yeah,
Pittsburgh looks tough. That's the Brian Little night. That's the return of Rucker McGrody potentially.
Return? He was never here.
And also, shout out Jetcentric for his research and whatnot. That's the 1,000th game of the Winnipeg Jets 2.0 being back.
Holy shit.
Pretty cool little touch show.
All that the silver stick out for Chipper.
Yeah, you know what? You look at the schedule ahead and you don't see any reasons why they shouldn't be 5-0 to start the year. The funny thing is, looking at it, I think it's going to be a 5-0 where we're still having the same conversations, where it's a frustrating 5-0, but a 5-0 nonetheless. Like,
it's crazy because like you're almost looking at like a bubble that is I feel like it's gonna burst, but I don't know. Like we could look at this team at like 12-0 and be like, I still don't know what's going on.
It's one of those things where I'm the reaction Friday night after the game would be fascinating to me if they win like 3-1. Both skill groups don't score at 5-on-5 again against San Jose, but hey, they're 4-0. Fascinating times. And you know where you should bring those times? The landing strip post-game show at twitch.tv/Topline Media. If you're not aware, we've been doing some live streams after Jets games for a post-game show, Mikey and I. And for home games, we're starting at a half an hour after, so it gives me time to get home from the rink. Away games, we're trying to go live right after the game ends. And it's been a ton of fun, actually. It's been some of the most fun I've had doing Jets content in some time. The chat over there has been bumping. The way the show works is like me and Mikey come on and talk about our thoughts on the game for the first 10 minutes or so. And then we open up the phone lines and just let the chat take the conversation where it wants to go.
And boy, do they ever.
And boy, do they ever. It's been fun. Like I said, I'm having a blast. I look forward to the post game now as much as the game itself. Like, that's how it's been that fun to see people get behind it. So, hey, if you want to have yourself heard and be a part of these discussions, go on YouTube and take a look at our episodes or the podcast apps. They're on there now. We are posting the post-game show onto the podcast apps and YouTube and Facebook immediately after the show ends, once we can get it uploaded. Go take a listen to those shows. I think they're a blast. Nothing but good reviews on them, feedback. I know Mikey's cooking up some stuff that's going to really take that show to another level too. Can't wait to introduce it. But we'll be back next Sunday, hopefully talking about a 5-0 start for those Winnipeg Jets. We will be live Friday night after the San Jose game, Sunday early evening after the 2:00 start Pittsburgh game, twitch.tv/Topline Media. Come give us a call. Come join the chat. Let's have some fun this year. And let's go bang some more early points despite some 5-on-5 concerns.
Thank you.
This has been a Top Lyne Media production.